Yes, there already have been several videos issued this night about Russian troops, like picturing Russian troops moving across the Ukrainian border, which is not controlled by the Ukrainian government, and moving further into Donetsk and Luhansk regions. And yesterday, Vladimir Putin, in his speech, he not only recognized these self-proclaimed republics, but he also made clear that actually his main goal is to destroy Ukraine, because he doesn't believe Ukraine has a right to exist as a sovereign and independent state, because he doesn't like the direction Ukraine has been going in these years, farther and farther away from Russia, introducing democratic reforms, decommunization, and other developments that have been happening here. So that, of course, has been perceived in Ukraine with a lot, of anger and a lot of frustration, but also a lot of determination to defend Ukraine, because what Putin basically says now is no longer about Ukraine's membership in NATO or, about recognition of the self-proclaimed republics. What he actually has in mind is to take Ukraine under Russia's control.
Yes, he made it very clear that he believed Ukraine didn't really exist as a country in its own right, that it was part of the spiritual essence of Russia. Now, those comments must make it very clear that there's going to be, you would think, an escalation of what has happened overnight.
Yeah, well, it's not very surprising, in fact, here in Ukraine, because Putin basically repeated what he wrote last summer in his infamous essay, in which, again, he claimed that Ukraine didn't have a right to exist as an independent state, and basically dehumanized Ukrainians, and their efforts to live in a prosperous, free and democratic country. So this is not a surprise to anyone here, and nor is his move to recognize the self-proclaimed Donetsk and Luhansk republics. But this is definitely an escalatory move, and we don't know what's going to happen next, because it's still an open question in what kind of borders Russia is going to recognize the statelets, whether in the territory that is already under control of pro-Russian groups, or in the wider territory, the whole encompassing whole territory of Luhansk and Donetsk regions, because now 2/3 of those regions are under the Ukrainian government control, and whether an assault on other Ukrainian regions and cities will follow. And in fact, in Ukraine, people reacted to that, by discussing, some mothers were discussing on Facebook about attaching stickers to their children's clothes, signing the blood type before they send them to school, because nobody can be sure there can be no Russian further aggression and even bombing of Ukrainian cities.
Yeah, so it's gone from a sense of hoping that Russia was not going to escalate and that life in Kiev, for example, was getting on as normal. How has that changed, and what sort of sense is there about how you are going to be able to defend your country?
Well, life hasn't been normal here since Russia began its build-up on the Ukrainian borders almost 4 months ago. So since then, we've been receiving this news, and people, despite, trying to continue with living their normal lives, still were following the news and thinking of the ways to prepare. Well, what Ukraine is doing now is continuing to strengthen its military. The people are resolved to contribute in whatever ways they can to the resistance and to, standing up to further Russian aggression. But of course, also a coordinated, a strong and united response of the West is needed, both in terms of imposing sanctions on Russia, going after Russian money, Russian corrupt money in the West, because this is what really hits the Kremlin and Putin personally hard. And also in terms of supporting Ukraine by providing more defensive weapons, by providing more economic assistance, and by strengthening, also Ukrainian civil society, which is probably Ukraine's main strength and the main difference from the Russian increasingly authoritarian and, closed and autarkic regime.
Olga, give us a sense of how much support in these regions that Putin has named to be more aligned with Moscow. What percentage do you think there would be?
If we are talking about the self-proclaimed Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, it was very clear even yesterday after Putin formally recognized them in violation of the international law that very few people actually there were happy or were going to celebrate. We've seen like several dozens of people only on the streets of Donetsk, because basically what is happening there, what has been happening there for the last 8 years since these territories were occupied by Russia is a sense of fear that was installed there by these occupation authorities. These territories became gray areas of lawlessness where secret prisons exist, where there is no free speech, no free media, no dissent. People can be put in basements and tortured and raped and put in the secret prisons just for, making a comment on social media, which would be perceived as a pro-Ukraine. So these territories already, were living in fear even before this latest move by Putin, and I'm afraid it's not going to change in the near future.
Olga, we are all thinking of you, and we will watch with interest how this unfolds. Thank you so much.
Thank you.